Hallelujah.
You're on, Frank.
Okay, we're all up and running.
Yep.
Just like 2 seconds. Okay, good to go.
Okay, good evening. It's the October 4th meeting of the Scituate Conservation Commission. Just going to read this statement. On June 16th, 2021, Governor Baker signed into law an act extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency. This act includes an extension until April 1st, 2022 of the remote meeting provisions of his March 12th, 2020 executive order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law. You're hereby advised that this meeting and all communications during this meeting may be recorded by the town of Scituate in accordance with the open meeting law. So do we have any additions or omissions, changes to the agenda?
Frank, we were gonna add meeting date vote just for next calendar year,
Okay,
starting January 1st. We're gonna look at 2022 dates that just accept those. But other than that, I don't think of anything.
all right. Maybe I could just update you for a minute on the scouts that are going to take on the rest of or parts of the trails and signage project.
Very good.
Okay.
So I'll make a motion to accept the agenda with the 2 add-ons.
Oh, it's Penny. Do I have a second?
Second from Jen.
Okay, all in favor, Richard?
Yes.
Do we say Doug's not with us yet? Andy,
Yes.
Brendan,
Yes.
and Frank, yes, great. Evening, everybody. So, number 4, Basson Lane. This is a continuation, it's
Yeah,
application.
we have
by-
Jeff Hassett on.
Okay, so I guess we'll pick up, I think we just opened this without much info, right?
Yeah.
So Jeff,
Great, thank you, Frank. So Jeff Assett here, civil engineer with Morse Engineering. This is an NOI filing to raise and reconstruct the home at 4 Bassing Lane. The property is about 12,000 square feet in size. It's developed with a single-family home as well as an outbuilding to the west of that home. And it's abutted by other developed residential properties on all sides and by the Atlantic Ocean to the east. The resource area would be the top of Coastal Bank, which is determined by the DEP policy 92-1. In this case, the velocity zone is shown in yellow or orange on the right side of the page. And it falls in an area where the topography is greater than 4:1. So the top of Coastal Bank is the point where the slope goes to less than 4:1, which would be the blue line shown on the plan. The 50-foot buffer is in red and the 100-foot buffer is in green. So just as a note, I did pull some research and the line is consistent with the filing to the north, as well as some of the other properties to the south, which I pulled. So the work will be to, again, demolish the structure, the house on the property, as well as the outbuilding, and then build a new house. The new house has a roof area that's only about 200 square feet larger than the combination of the 2 roof areas that are being removed. And the new house is being moved further back from the bank. So the main portion of the house is being moved back about 20 feet. And then the deck is 6 feet back from the main portion of the existing house. So either way, it's being moved back. So that will be a net benefit to better stabilize the bank. It's certainly an improvement. Currently, they have a gravel driveway that really isn't well defined once you get up to the area closer to the house. That will be better defined, but it will remain as a pervious gravel surface. Currently, there's no stormwater mitigation. This project does not trigger a stormwater permit in the town of Scituate, but we are adding a dry well system. And we feel that this is a project that you can issue an order of conditions for, because again, we're moving the house back. It's only a slight increase in impervious. We're adding the dry well, and there will be an erosion control barrier around the limit of work, basically following the property line. And there will be a stabilized construction entrance at the beginning of the driveway. Thank you.
Yeah,
Amy,
just
yep.
real quick. I mean, the one thing that Jeff didn't mention, but I mean, he just presented the project pretty much for the first time, but we had a site visit with CZM. It was supposed to happen last week, but it got put on hold due to just CZM, but she's gonna be available to give us this technical assistance because I am questioning the accuracy of Coastal Bank and the top of bank. So anyways, and so I think in this particular location on the cliff, it would be beneficial to have that technical guidance from CZM. And otherwise, I mean, I'm happy to see that a roof well was added. And I mean, it's a pretty great increase in area for structure. I'm pretty sure this went to zoning board and it's like a 203% increase. But I mean, most of the components like that we would be looking for, like the stabilized construction entrance is shown, the full limit of work, you know, happy about the dry wells. We did have calls from neighbors, so I know we're gonna have the butters on this call, concerned about impacts from storm damage prevention and flood control. Yeah, that's about it. So I think I would be satisfied probably after a chime in from CZM, just to make sure that resource areas are accurate.
I was happy to meet with CZM. My understanding was that that would happen before this hearing. And then that meeting was canceled last minute. The line is consistent with the plan for the property immediately to the north, as well as the other properties to the south. And I think in this case, whether the line is, no matter where the line falls, we're moving the work further away from the resource area. I think it's permittable either way. And I know the property owner is eager to keep the process moving. So I'll offer that info.
Okay, thanks. Amy, do you have anything else you want to?
No, I mean, and as far as like DEP comments, DEP and their assignment of the number, they didn't have any technical comments. So I think for an opening before we can get the commissioners out there to take a look and get some guidance from CZM, I'm good with what I've said. So you just go through the commissioners.
Okay. Richard, do you want to start with this?
I don't really have a lot to add right now based on what Amy said and some other comments I've seen in writing. No, I don't have anything now.
Okay. Penny?
I just, I had a question and now I'm having a senior moment. Move on,
Welcome to the
dear.
club.
I lost it.
Okay. Jen?
Yeah, there's a lot happening on a small little slice here, so lots of things to look at. Were they planning, I'm not seeing any patios or other sort of like hardscape or retaining walls. Is that here? Am I just missing it, or is it not in the plan?
No, it's just not in the plan. They're really not proposing any significant grading. They're for the most part working with the existing contours of the land. And the only intended, outdoor living space is that proposed deck in the front,
Okay,
or the east side of the house.
got it.
And
So
then
no
houses in the back.
retaining wall. I think I thought I saw something about there being an existing retaining wall. Am I making
Yeah,
that?
yep, along the westerly side of the property behind the existing structure.
Okay,
It's a retaining wall that's on this property, probably about four feet onto the property.
yeah,
That wall is not going to be touched.
okay,
I did speak to a representative of that neighbor adjacent to it. And their concern was, the integrity of that wall.
Mhm.
The plan you're looking at is not the current plan. We submitted a plan dated September 29th. But
Yeah.
the only change we made is that we tweaked the proposed contours and put some flow arrows to clearly show that once that structure is removed, the flow will not go over that wall. It'll continue to go where it goes now, down the driveway.
Okay.
And then we moved the dry well to the top side of the page here in order to, so that that dry well couldn't potentially build up hydrostatic pressure behind it.
Hydrostatic sounds very fancy, so I'll trust
It
it.
just means, if there's a concern about the integrity of that wall,
Okay,
you don't want to start introducing all the
got
storm
it.
behind it.
Got it. Yeah, thank you for that insight. I'm good for now, Frank.
Andy?
No questions to add at the moment.
Brendan?
I have no questions at this time.
Okay.
Frank,
We'll
I see
open-
that there is at least one person with their hand up.
Yeah, I think we should go to who's ever in the waiting room.
Okay. So this is Rachel is just been unmuted.
Okay, hi, thank you.
So you want to give us your full name and address, please?
Yep, absolutely. My name is Rachel Watsky from Watsky Law at 30 Eastbrook Road, Suite 301 in Dedham. I'm the representative or one of the representatives that Jeff spoke to for 6 Bassin Lane, the small lot to the east of this property. I just raised my hand to just note, as Jeff told you, that there was an updated site plan that moved the dry well. The site plan you have is not the updated one. There's one from the 29th that just has relocated the dry wells so that, as Jeff said, the water is not going to be put into groundwater going towards the retaining wall. It's just going to go down the driveway instead. That was our point, and that we had been in contact with Jeff and the developer and were satisfied at the communications that we'd had with them.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have anybody else? Anybody else in the waiting room or?
Being no others, Frank.
Can I just ask one quick question, Frank?
Sure.
Jeff, this is all house, there's no garage?
There is a garage.
Where is it?
The portion, I can't point, but the portion facing down the driveway is a garage at basement level.
Okay,
So
okay,
it's a drive under garage. And then the way the grade naturally comes up to the front of the house. So then
Yeah.
the floor is above, walking out on the water side.
so actually the majority of the house is behind the existing house that's there now.
Exactly. And, it's definitely a bigger house, but that's because they're going up vertically.
Yeah,
The
And back.
increase in footprint between tearing down the existing house and the outbuilding compared to this, it's only
Right.
240 something square feet.
okay. All right, thank you. I'm all set. Right, it's all yours.
We had a letter from an abutter at 4 Bassin Lane with concerns to this property that's on record. Did you get a copy of that, Jeff?
I did, yes.
Is there any pieces of that and this is what we're getting in some of these instances, rather than someone being online.
I mean, there's nothing jumping out that I felt the need to speak to, but I'm happy to address any questions.
Well, there's some bullet points here with the project not sufficiently defined, or just maybe you could hit those few.
I don't have it in front of me. Can you read me the
Okay.
the comment?
So the proposed project is not sufficiently defined, and the applicability of the Scituate Wetlands Stormwater Bylaw must be considered, but I think you addressed that. It has to do with area.
Yes, yeah, so I show the bold outline, which is the limit of work, and actually over on the right side of the page, right above the title block, I have a section called the Scituate Stormwater Bylaw Notes, and it breaks down the criteria for a stormwater permit, showing that this project is below that threshold.
The proposed project involves significant risk of flooding of that property at number 6 due to alterations of drainage characteristics.
So again, we're not changing the drainage patterns at all, and it's only a very negligible increase in the impervious area. And we're adding a roof dry well system where currently there's no stormwater on the property.
Okay, and the proposed project increases the risk of damage to an environmentally sensitive cliff.
The work is being moved away from the cliff. It'll be an improvement in that regard.
What's the foundation of the existing home? Do you know?
I believe it's concrete. I don't know if it's block or poured.
So that's going to be totally removed.
Yes.
And then this foundation is a poured concrete foundation.
It is, yes.
And do you take into consideration the location at all? Is there anything different or significant on that excavation?
No, so on the westerly side of the house, they really only have to go down 4 feet for the frost wall, being a drive under garage.
Mhm.
And then on the uphill side, it'll just be excavating down to the footing depth. And then restoring the existing grades after.
Do you have any idea of the amount of material you're going to be removing from the site for this project?
I don't have a number on it. I could run an approximate number pretty quick.
Because I'm assuming that the house that's there now, doesn't have a full basement.
I'm not sure, to be honest.
And the only thing that we've looked at with some of these projects is, or not the only thing, but one of the major concerns is the stability of the cliff. And changes out there. It is changing and it has been eroding, and we've tried to look at that with a number of applicants to make sure like water isn't flowing over the cliff and increasing the amount of erosion on the cliff. So this looks like it.
So if I could go back to that, on the uphill side, closer to the cliff, they only have to excavate down about 5 feet.
Okay,
The existing grade is about 60.5, and the basement is 56.
okay,
We're going down about 5 feet, 5.5 feet.
Okay.
And the natural slope of the land is away from the cliff.
great. Okay,
And that end where I said they're going down 5.5 feet, that's the deepest excavation.
all right.
Frank, we have another abutter or somebody that's raised their hand. Kath,
Okay. Kathy Barry. We can admit her.
Yes, hi, can you hear me?
We can.
Oh, hi. So I'm Kathy Berry. I live at number 3, which is directly across from number 6 and the driveway that leads up to where this new construction is going to take place. I have some pump that runs every day of the year, doesn't matter what, and I am concerned about the water flow. And with a dugout basement and displacement of that soil, and you said that the water is going to run down that gravel driveway. My property is right across the street from that gravel driveway. So I am concerned about the water displacement and the water runoff from this project and a dugout basement up there, which I'm not quite sure if that house up there has a basement. I think it's a slab, but that's my concern.
Okay. Jeff?
Yeah, digging out the basement won't increase the runoff. And again, the increase in impervious here is only about 250 square feet. And maintaining all the existing grades. So really no change in the drainage patterns. I really don't see this having any significant impact on drainage.
I'm kind of scanning through this letter at the same time. Looking on the plan, Jeff, just to see, is there, you're going to keep a lawn from the front of this house to the edge of the cliff?
Yeah, so the limit of the lawn is labeled right at the erosion barrier. It goes from lawn to brush, and that will remain as the limit of the lawn. And that's kind of the clear break where it then goes to a vegetated slope.
Okay, is there any plans to do anything with that slope? Does your client have anything?
No, not at this point. I mean, it's very, very well stabilized with vegetation. I know some of the abutters to the south have had applications to kind of revegetate the slope, but we haven't discussed that for this property at all.
Okay. So Amy, we did not hire a consultant, right, to review the wetland, to review the coastal bank?
No, so when the plan first came in, there was no, there was no calculation on it. So they did revise it, and they, I think that, like Jeff, I do believe that he's correct that there's a break of slope where he has it shown, but the conversations I've had with CZM on, and also through like technical documentation about third cliff, that it's the landform that we should be looking to protect, not necessarily just the first coastal bank break of slope. So meaning that there could be more than one, you know what I mean? So anyways, on a project like this, where we know that the cliff is compromised and potentially eroding, the town is working, has been working very hard to put together alternatives analysis and a project to keep the breakwater, fix it and repair it. And CZM did offer some, so at this point I passed on the peer review in hopes that we could get technical guidance from the state, just to make sure that the accuracy is correct. That's all.
And when can we expect that? I know that they haven't been.
Yeah, I'm hopeful that this week, like sometime later this week or the following week, that it was a, sudden personal matter, whatever, that involved, whatever, short leave of absence for the person that was going to be here last week. So, but she's back. I'm sure she's back this week. And she was going to get right back to me. So as soon as I have a date, I can throw it out there.
I'm sure with weather changing and whatnot, that folks are trying to move it along if they can.
Well,
The intent of this. Go ahead, Andrew.
sorry, Jeff, I do agree that this project is, that some version of this project is permittable. In fact, this could be it. I just am a little bit concerned that the resource areas as depicted are whether or not they're completely accurate. And I do understand that Jeff looked at other files, but, you know, those were from years ago, so, you know, I'm not sure. I think that, with climate change and whatever geologic processes, we can see that these cliffs are changing. So, you know, obviously it provides vertical buffer from storm damage prevention for all these properties around here. And I would hate for this project, which is quite, you know, quite a lot more house than is there now with a foundation. I would hate for it to have detrimental effects. So, that's about it.
So do you think, I mean, I'm just trying to recall when we've gotten input from CZM that they're actually going to give us a definitive resource area?
Well, she's already seen the calculation as shown, but so I think on the ground though, she's saying you're looking at the land form. So the coastal manual is very specific that the land form is the actual coastal bank. So even though you might have this 4-to-1 break down at the bottom, I mean, clearly, and then if you're on site, you can see it's, you know, it's site's fairly level topography, and then you get to the cliff and it completely drops off. So it makes a lot of sense to me that the top of coastal bank is actually the top, where he's saying the 100 is. You know, and just saying, I mean, if it is there and you're more, you know, now you've got an altered site. So I do think that something can be put here, but then, you know, again, are there additional things that you might be able to do to offer, you know, additional buffer to the cliff? Or a lot of these cliff homes have, you know, some kind of a vegetated buffer, like 20 feet towards, you know, just a little bit of a vegetated buffer there.
So, I mean, when I first started looking at this project and before we actually topoed all the way down to the water, I mean, the top of the bank, when you first look at it, would be the top of that vegetated area, which would be the red line approximately. But when you add the topo and you take a look at the way DEP instructs you to calculate the top of coastal bank, you know, it's if the slope is greater than 4-to-1 at the location where the FEMA line falls, the yellow line, then the top of coastal bank is the next higher point where the slope goes to less than 4-to-1. And you have an area through there. If you look at an aerial image, it shows it very clearly, but there's a flat, you know, plateau. Maybe it's 20, 30 feet wide. And then you get into the vegetated slope. So, I mean, this is my first reaction would have been the top two. And I think, and we designed the project that way. And, you know, then it was kind of a bonus to find it was down here. And then doing my research, I found that 3 other properties that I came across, 2 different engineers came up with the same determination. So I'm very comfortable with it. Even if it changes, fine. I mean, I don't think it changes the project. I guess my concern is CZM even being hired as a peer review here? And are they just doing this as a favor? Are they being paid to do it?
No, it's not a paid thing.
Are we sure are they going to write a report? I mean,
Yes, that's what they do. Yeah.
They're going to write a report just as a favor. Okay.
Yeah, no, they've been providing technical advice to the Conservation Commission, just at like a short memo, email, you know, and she doesn't always think that it's needed to go on site to, you know, make conclusions. But in this case, both Jason and Rebecca were interested to take a look and offer guidance. So, I mean, it's unfortunate that they, you know, something came up out of her control last week, but, you know, a lot of things are out of our control. So I don't know what to say, or you guys do what you want, but I don't know how we qualify the accuracy of the resource area, especially when we have this offer on the table to look at it from our partners in crime, so to speak, that, CZM, I mean, they sponsor a lot of town projects, foreshore protection, so they have offered assistance.
Did Doug get on yet?
No, Doug.
He should be here soon, though, but he'll have missed the substance of this.
Yeah. Huh.
I mean, so I guess I see that, I mean, I think we all have sort of the same, like everybody has the same concern that you don't want to permit a project that's going to impact other people's properties and possibly the cliff itself, right? Undermine it in some its vertical protection. So if you continue it and let CZM provide technical guidance on, and then hopefully we will know that the plan is accurate. So going forward, it gives you that additional comfort. That's what my thinking says. And plus, I'm not sure how many of you have been actually on site, so you get the nature of how tight it is on the property.
So I'm just thinking about times when we have met with CZM for different properties, and it was usually the discussion of maybe some alternate ways of reinforcing the slope or trying to repair an area with erosion. We've discussed gabion baskets versus stone versus plantings, that kind of thing. But there's nothing being proposed on this slope. I mean, it's all vegetated and there's nothing else being proposed here unless you think that they're going to suggest that. We do know that excavating or doing work on the cliff, it's all pretty much glacial till. It's pretty hard when it gets disturbed. Turns to mud. And I'm just looking, do we have anything on this where it is so tight, Jeff? I know we don't have a stormwater issue here, which sometimes is puzzling because these tight sites are actually the ones that create the most havoc when they're changed. We're just looking at a footprint with no additional information. You have something that's, what is this, maybe it's basically 50 feet away from the top of I'm gonna call it the coastal bank, but right at the top of the slope. The excavation that you're proposing is less than 50 feet, and you're actually filling in an area, if I'm not mistaken.
Right, Doug is on.
Yeah, but to Amy's point, he really hasn't had an opportunity to.
That's true.
So, well, what about this? I mean, I know everybody's anxious to keep this going. If we were to continue this hearing to the to our next meeting, and we get the input from
We'll have the orders ready.
from CZM, that's my question. Can we issue and condition at the same meeting? So essentially create the same timeline.
Yeah, I think we could probably do that. Although I mean, we're less than 2 weeks from the next meeting, so I think it really goes to the week at the meeting after that, which is actually only a week later. But I think that would give time to get their opinion rendered, so yeah.
So you think we'll hear from them later this week and be able to get that input back to Jeff?
Yes, and hopefully some of you commissioners will make it out there. I know Penny was planning on going out, but yeah.
Mhm.
I'm happy to meet you out there too. Just let me know.
I think that would be helpful, Jeff, if you could.
I'm always ready for a field trip. Okay,
But I'm. So let's say if we had to have closed this meeting tonight, what's a reasonable time that the applicant could expect an order for this project?
If we close tonight,
Mhm.
the 18th,
uh,
no?
they don't actually get their orders. Like when you vote it, there's still some lead time before you actually get your paperwork. But once you close, we generally issue within 21 days for sure, depending on signatures. So when we vote it to close and issue at the same time, it just kind of bumps it a little bit quicker because we start trying to get the signatures out and paperwork out the door.
So our next meeting is on the 1st, right, of November?
No, it's the 27th of October would be the meeting to continue it to.
The day after town meeting? Town meeting's the
Okay.
26th.
Oh,
Okay,
that stinks, but yes, that's what it is.
okay. So our next meeting is the 27th, which is a little over 2 weeks away. But you're saying, and then are we still having a meeting on the 1st?
No,
The 18th, Frank, because we are October 4th right now, right?
Yeah,
next meeting's the
Yeah,
18th.
and then no, we're not meeting on November 1. And then we go
I
to
see.
November 15 or something like that.
18th.
18.
So if we closed and issue orders on the 27th,
15.
what's that?
The meeting's November 15th after the 27th. So I mean, I would say for the interest of the applicant, if there's any changes to be made, we'd need them in by the 18th of October to close on the 27th. But I think that gives us the rest of this week and then, the week after for CZM to get out there. And again, she canceled on us and I think she was very, she didn't want to do that. So I'd still get it on the books quick.
is the next meeting the 27th or the 18th? The 18th would be the third Monday.
The
The
next
18th is the
meeting
next
is on the
meeting.
18th.
Okay, so
However,
we're not
that-
talking the 27th.
The 27th, but we're talking about the 27th, yes.
Why? Because we're gonna meet that week too?
Yes, instead of the
Yes.
1st of November.
Yeah, we're meeting 2 weeks in a row.
Okay, there, thank you. That's what was confusing me.
Okay, how about if somebody makes a motion?
Well, what do you want to continue it to, Frank?
Well, I'd really like to continue it to the 18th. I mean, this got pushed back already.
Well, let's continue it to the 18th and hopefully we'll get it done. If not, then I'll have to go to the 27th.
Oh, wait a minute, Frank, why do you say it already got pushed back? It hasn't been pushed back.
Well, we would have had the information and the feedback from.
Yeah, but you know what? Personal, things.
I understand it's personal problems. We're
Yeah,
trying to do that, but by the same token,
Well, I
you know,
just hate to say the 18th when we have a really like chock block full meeting and it doesn't sound like Morse would be able to revise their plan or that we would be guaranteed to get out there. So
I mean,
the
if we get out there, if there's any revisions to be made, we'll make them that day, the next morning. If you don't mind, if you could put us on for the 18th, if we have to continue to the 27th, then so be it, but I think we should try for the 18th.
I think that's reasonable.
And I don't think that, hopefully this discussion shouldn't be too long. I think you've already gone into.
Okay. Then I'll make a motion to continue 4 Bassins Lane to October 18th.
That's a second, that's a motion by Penny. Do I have a second?
Second, from Jen. Oh,
From Jen. So all in favor, Richard,
Yes,
uh, Andy,
Yes.
Brendan,
Yes.
and Frank, yes. Okay, let's see what we can get to.
Great, thanks, everyone.
Thank you. 0 Ridge Hill Road. I guess we have a request to continue to November 15th.
Okay, I'll make a motion to continue 0 Ridge Hill to November 15th.
second
As
is Richard.
Penny, Richard second, all in favor. Doug,
Yes.
Jen,
yep.
Andy,
Yes.
Brendan,
Yes.
and Frank, yes, great, thank you. 28 Gilson Road, this is continued from 9/20. This is a Morse project.
Now, I'm thinking Jeff might be on this one too, even though last time it was James. Jeff,
Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
James presented this to you before. James filled me in on that hearing. Basically, following that, we reached out to Brad Holmes to specify the types of plantings to go in that mitigation area. And we've added a schedule to the left side of the plan, kind of the bottom left corner. He is specifying 3 shad bushes, 4 bayberries, and 3 beach plums.
Okay, we happy?
yeah, I had thought that maybe it needed to go to the zoning board because of frontage considerations, but actually, I think, and then it was Paul, I was working with Paul Gunn on this too, and he said that apparently it didn't. So I don't know, I guess it would just be whether or not this is the first time you're seeing these plantings, this planting schedule, whether you think it's substantial enough for what they're doing. And previously that the site didn't have, updated flags. So that's why Brad also went out there to update that line and get that accurate on the plan. I mean, it's a tight site. There's nothing else to say about that. I mean, and I don't know. I mean, I think it's better than it was. How about that?
Amy, so you're saying that it's been reflagged accurately?
Yes.
I'd be okay to close, but that's just me.
Well, let's work our way through. Doug?
I think I remember looking at this. This was in before, and there's that hatched area in the middle. That was an addition that was done before. I think if I remember this one right. And I remember looking at it. Yeah, it's really tight. It's one of those situations where it's existing. The deck's just going to be on sonotubes. So
Yep.
It's an existing tight situation, and there's not a lot they can do and get and add on to this house at all. So I think it's just it's kind of like you're getting what you look at here. And I don't know. I mean, we could ask for more plantings, I guess, but I just think I think I'm going to have to be okay with it the way it is.
Penny?
I'm fine with it. Thank you.
Jen?
Yeah, I think if everybody else is good, then I'm good.
Andy?
Yeah, I'm okay.
Brendan?
I have no additional comments.
Amy, do you want to have anything else?
No, if anybody's in the audience, they could raise their hand with questions. Otherwise, you probably could do a motion to close. And I don't see anybody raising their hand, so.
Okay. I think I remember this. This has been a while, but pretty good with this. So I'd take a motion.
Make a motion to close.
That was, we'll give that one to Richard.
Give it to Richard.
Do I have a second? Do
Yay.
you want to second that, Penny?
Oh, I'll second it. Yes.
There we
Oh,
go.
boy.
All right.
Thank you.
All in favor, Doug,
Yes.
Jen,
Yep.
Andy,
Yes.
Brendan,
Yes.
Frank, yes. Okay. Off Bay Road. We have a.
Vegetation management.
I have Land Stewardship, Inc.
I gotta open this, I think.
Oh, yeah, you gotta read to open it, but then I'm not sure who from
Oh,
Land,
it's Egypt Beach.
Okay.
maybe they can raise their hand, but
On October 4th, 2021 at 5:30 PM, the Town Hall, Scituate Conservation Commission will hold a wetlands hearing under Chapter 131, Section 40 of the Massachusetts General Laws and Section 30700, Town of Scituate Code of Bylaws regarding the application of Paul and Bonnie Turcott for work related to vegetation management at location off Bay Street, Scituate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Information to access the virtual meeting is available on the agenda posted on the town website.
Frank, it looks like we have Joan Deely on the line, so I'm gonna unmute her.
Okay.
Hi,
Good evening.
excuse me. This project is a continuation or an addition to a project that was passed, NOI that was passed in 2020 for the property in the middle there that belongs to the Brown Turcott family at 61 Seaside Road there. And the Turcott Browns purchased this piece of property that's that's highlighted with the green and yellow arcs there. And it's basically a Phragmites control project that just extends the range of the project to include a good 2/3 of the pond rather than just the central portion.
Yep.
And all the preparation, the excuse me, the mapping and the delineations here were done by Brad Holmes.
I honestly didn't go back out to this project. You've already done this middle section, or it's underway?
It's underway.
Okay. Maybe you can just describe a little bit about what your plans are to do that.
Let's see, this site, we're going, if for the 61 Seaside portion, we were going to begin foliar work as permitted now at this time of year. And then once we are able to get the off Bay Street portion permitted, then both of those sites will be mowed in November to remove the dead vegetation. And then once we go into 2022, both of these sections will be in sync again in terms of treatment. So we can do them all at, do both portions at the same time, do the same thing at the same time to make the increase the efficiency of treating the properties. The person, the landowner on the far right there did not choose to participate in this project.
Okay, and just describe the treatment a little bit, please.
It's a foliar treatment with a wetland approved herbicide, glyphosate at a concentration of 8%, the rest of it's mixed with water. And then there's also an option to do hand wiping as needed around desirable plantings or sensitive areas. And if necessary, also stem injection, which is also a very targeted application of herbicide. And then in a context like this, the natural revegetation proceeds relatively quickly because it's a moist environment.
And what's the frequency?
I'm sorry?
The frequency of the treatments?
It's done twice a year. If once these projects get back into sequence, in June, we would cut the living Phragmites and remove the cut material from the site so that when it regrows again in the late summer, which is the optimum time for treating it, the plants are much lower and there's less plant material to cover. It's also easier for us to access it. And if you cut it once in the early in the season, you're already challenging the plants and forcing them to send out a flush of growth again. So they're already being, their reserves are being depleted once already before we come back to treat them. And then the whole treatment plan goes is over the course of 3 years. And then if stewardship treatment would want to be continued to make sure that it doesn't return.
Andy, you had your hand up. Andy, did you have a question?
No, I didn't. Well, I mean, I will, but I didn't know.
We'll start with you.
Sure. Yeah, so I appreciate the explanation on the Phragmites. I think the application also mentioned that there would be removal of poison ivy. Can you share some detail on that as well?
In the course of treating the Phragmites, the poison ivy would also be treated because they're growing intertwined with each other. Poison ivy was the biggest concern for the landowner to the right there who did not participate in the project. But I think this whole site has an intertwined growth of both Phragmites and poison ivy. So they would sort of be treated along with the Phragmites by the virtue of the fact that they're interspersed very closely.
Okay. You'd have to use different methods though to get the poison ivy, right?
Well, if the poison ivy would be affected by the foliar treatments, obviously they're not going to be affected by stem injection because that's not something that you can do with poison ivy. We may need to make another visit to it in between the time when we cut it in June and treat it in the late summer to see, to sort of assess the poison ivy and see if we need to deal with that in a different way. But at this point, we're anticipating it being a sort of a co-treatment with the Phragmites. That's an awkward term, but to be treated together.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, we've seen this a couple times, I guess, where the sort of treatment of a nuisance plant gets mixed in with the invasive. So I'm comfortable with I like the invasive treatment, but I think if it's just a matter of getting nuisance plants out and using herbicide in the wetland, I'm opposed to that. So I guess a comment. I don't know how we would condition that or if others agree, but I do. And this, to me, it doesn't look like a safety concern for the homeowner. Like they don't have to access the home or anything through it. So I guess that's my one comment with the poison ivy mixed in.
Yeah, it would definitely be a byproduct of the Phragmites treatment, but that's not the main goal of the the project. The main goal of the project is removing the Phragmites, which is having the biggest impact on the habitat of that pond.
Okay, thank you.
How about Jen?
I think I'm good for now. Thanks for all those comments, Andy. I appreciate those.
Brendan?
I'm good.
Okay. Patty?
I'm all set, thank you.
Richard?
I'm good.
Doug?
Yeah, I do remember the other one. I'm glad to see it expanded. So I do wish everyone was involved, but I can understand why you would opt out. Probably it's an expensive undertaking. So, but no, I'm glad to see it expanded as far as it has here. So. I'm good
Well,
with
it's
it.
also possible that once this project gets underway, the homeowner to the right may want to join, you know, they had for a variety of reasons why they didn't want to join at this point, so they may join in later. We'll see.
Sure.
It would make it more effective if everybody was involved, but
Yeah, I remember that for the first section there. That well, that's great. You're doing that right there, but you're surrounded by those Phragmites, and you're gonna fight them forever. So it'd be
Right.
nice if they could be eradicated. So so I'm good with this.
Okay, did I skip over anybody?
Penny?
Amy?
Yeah, did you ask Penny?
Yep, he did. I'm all set. I'm glad it's all getting done.
Yeah, my only comments are that DEP commented that, you know, the additional licenses are required for application of herbicide under,
the WMO4,
yeah.
yep, that's on my list of things to do.
And other than that, I think we're in good shape and I'm in favor of the project. It's great. Thank you.
Yeah, we have an order of conditions for the middle section, right?
Yeah,
So this is an expansion of that. So getting back to Andy's concern just a little bit, I mean, do you see a real downfall in if they're gonna wind up treating this to eliminate the Phragmites, that the poison ivy is kind of a residual effect of that? I guess the question would be what other plants would we lose?
in a situation like this, there's very little else growing there that we care about because the Phragmites is so dense. And the goal of removing it would be to allow whatever the native plants to return. And in our experience, when you remove a dense cover of Phragmites like this, it's pretty remarkable to see what begins to come back and that's in the seed bank in the soil, or that has just been, maybe trying to grow, but not making much of a go of it because of the dense monoculture of Phragmites. But they, as you know, I'm sure you all know, they look like they grow so tightly together that there's very little light reaching the soil, and there's there are very few resources left for other plants to grow. So I don't anticipate really causing much damage to anything. So I don't think there's a lot there.
Okay.
Poison
thank
ivy
you.
is kind of an opportunistic plant that will, as we all know, will grow anywhere.
I don't mind losing poison ivy, but the same token, we don't want to have it be a lot of other things.
Well, and I think once we start to get the upper hand on the Phragmites, we may want to entertain some strategic restoration planting with site appropriate plants, but we haven't really gotten to that point yet.
So how would, Amy, would that be something that they could come in and ask to amend these orders? If
Yes.
they wanted to do some plantings?
Or you
Okay.
could put it possibly in the order of conditions that, after probably after a year or two of treatment, that the site would be evaluated for a restoration planting plan.
To be approved by the commission, yeah.
Yeah. Because
What do you think?
we don't like to do restoration plantings too soon because we want to give the Phragmites a chance to die.
Right. Amy, do you see an issue with that?
No, I think that's a great idea. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Do we
Make a
have
motion
any,
to close?
we didn't have anybody in the audience for this, right?
Nope.
Frank, can I just ask just one more question? I guess
Sure.
I mean, I'm not terribly concerned about losing the poison ivy, but I don't like the idea of allowing extra glyphosate just for the removal of a non-invasive. So I guess my question is, could we just condition this for Phragmites, and then if the poison ivy, as has been mentioned, gets caught up in that? But I would not want to condition this to allow sort of spraying of areas that are just poison ivy in the buffer or near the resource
Got it.
area.
That makes sense to me.
Okay,
Great.
thank you. So we'll include that in the
Got
orders.
it. Yeah.
So I'll
Okay.
make a motion to
Thank you,
close.
Andy. I got a motion from Penny. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Doug, all in favor, Richard,
Yes.
Jen,
Yep.
Andy,
Yes.
Brendan,
Yes.
Frank, yes. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Where are we at? On 65 Rebecca Road. On October 4th, 2021, during the 5:30 PM meeting in the Town Hall, Situate Conservation Commission will act on the request of Matt Frankel for a determination of applicability of Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Situate Wetlands bylaws for activities related to enclosing an existing deck and constructing a new deck on sonotubes at property known as 65 Rebecca Road, Scituate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Information to access the meetings available on the agenda posted on the town website. Okay, who do we have for an engineer? Jed Hannon?
Atlantic Coast Engineering. So was just trying to unmute him.
All right, good evening. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yeah.
Excellent. Good evening, commission members. So this is, let me just zoom in here for a second. This is 65 Rebecca Road. It's an existing two-story single-family home. It's in both the AE 15 and VE 16 zone. The proposed scope of work is to enclose the existing porch. So where that existing concrete slab is located, that's actually it's an elevated porch. And so what the owner wants to do, he's an architect as well. He would like to enclose that, so it's basically finished interior square footage. And then he's also proposing to construct a 20 by 28 deck on sonotubes and 4x4 posts. The applicant is also working with Attorney Jeff DeLisi to go through the ZBA process because of some of the setbacks and conformities to zoning in that particular area. So they have filed with ZBA. So we basically wanted to concurrently file with the Conservation Commission, given the scope of the project. But that's really what it is enclosing an existing outdoor porch to make it finished interior, and then adding a 20 by 28 deck off the rear there with a staircase. At this point, I'll open it up to any questions you might have.
Amy, do you want to start?
Sure. So, I mean, Jed and I reviewed these projects before he filed, as he was, concerned that whether or not this would be an RDA or a notice of intent. And I mean, Jed, did you describe the number of sonnet tubes that you're adding. So the new work in the ground is just the sonnet tubes for the deck, correct?
That's right. Yep. There's 10 new sonotubes. It's for the new deck and for the stairs. That's right.
Yeah, so essentially, that's really what we're permitting. And I think that it appears to meet the requirements of a negative finding.
Mhm.
Okay. Doug?
Yeah,
So I'm just looking at the elevations here. This is a velocity zone, correct?
Yes,
Elevation 16.
correct.
So does the deck have to be above that? Or is that just for the enclosed
It does.
structures?
It does, yeah. And if we zoom in on the existing finished floor elevation, it's 17.6. So it's roughly 1.6 feet above the FEMA flood zone. So we did
And
check
the pro-
that.
And the
so
proposed
we're in good
deck's
shape there.
level with that?
Yes,
Okay, so it's this, you're just gonna walk out from that slab elevation, go out there.
exactly.
So does that have to, and these, I'm asking partially for myself here, but the VE zones is the lowest horizontal struct member, correct? So does that include the floor joist underneath?
That's correct.
Or
Yep.
is that where your lowest deck? And you've got like, what, 2x12s or 2x8s?
Two by 10s. Yep,
2x10s, so the lowest part of that is still gonna be above the 16.
exactly.
All right. So yeah, I think that's great. And you got to file a flood cert with FEMA anyways, I would imagine. Oh, here it
Yes,
is,
we
it's
did
included. I see that in there, okay.
Yep,
Yeah.
we did an elevation certificate, exactly.
And good. I'm good with that. Thanks.
Thank you.
Penny?
nope, I'm all set. Thank you.
Jen?
Yeah, I think I'm good.
Andy?
I'm okay right now.
Brendan?
I'm good.
Richard?
I'm good.
The other side.
Do we have anybody in the audience for this?
Seeing none, Frank.
Jed, do we have any information on the sonotubes and the deck framing and stuff like that?
Yeah, I could share my screen. I have the whole architectural set of drawings here. Let me zoom in on the details. I mean, I know that the sonotubes are 12-inch circular concrete. Yeah, I can share my screen here. Let's see.
Sorry, we don't.
Oh, we can't do it. Sorry.
Okay, yeah, but okay, so pretty much, I'm zooming on the architecturals right now.
It's in the packet, Frank. It's page 15 in that PDF file.
Yep, it's
Shows the
15.
horizontal location.
Yep, it's 15, and then if you go to like 21 of 22, it gives a nice proposed side elevation view of both the sonotubes and then the 4x4 posts coming up, as well as the framing with the PT joists and stringers.
Sorry. Doug, you can see those. Maybe I got it now.
Yeah, if you open up the,
I got it. Sorry.
okay.
Bear with me for a second. The only thing you might want to do is check, I'm looking at this and looking at the cross section, and the sonotubes don't show like any kind of a splayed area or footing at the bottom, Jed, and I'm not sure that they aren't supposed to have that. I guess that the building inspector would weigh in on that one.
Sure, no, it's a good point. Yeah, I'll remind Matt to make sure that's looked at and addressed.
What's the area where the deck is going now? Is that grass? Or cobble or what's? the
Yeah, it's kind of
material?
exactly, it's kind of a mixed bag of grass and gravel and, yeah, which is kind of typical in that area.
Okay. And that's not being changed, right?
No,
Okay, I guess I don't have any more questions. We checked, there was nobody in the audience for this, am I right?
Yep. I'll make a motion for -3.
I'll second that.
So we got Penny, Doug, all in favor, Richard,
Yes.
Jen,
Yep.
Andy,
Yes.
Brendan,
Yes.
and Frank, yes. Great, thank you.
thank you.
26
Up next as
Lighthouse.
well.
Right, good. On October 4th, during the 5:30 meeting in Town Hall, Citrus Conservation
Leaving.
Commission will act on the request of, what's her first, SAS? For a determination.
Yes,
Again, SAS, sorry about that. Applicability to Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act, the Scituate Wetlands bylaw for activities related to building a deck at property known as 26 Lighthouse Road, Scituate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Information to access the meeting will be available on the agenda posted on the town website. Okay,
okay, great. So similar to the last one, this is for a proposed porch. Although it's not in the VE zone, this one's in the AE 15 zone. It does comply with all the zoning requirements. So there is not a ZBA permit required on this one. So the scope of the intended work here would be, as you can see, if you zoom in, is at the front of the house along Lighthouse Road, the owner wants to put in a porch. So right now it's basically just a colonial home with a typical front door. What they want to do is put in this 8 foot by 40 foot porch, elevated on sonotubes, so it'd be flush with the existing grade, and again it's up above the flood zone, and of course handrails and deck members and such. So this one's pretty straightforward, and again it doesn't it's on the non-water side, it's on the road side, and so that's the situation here. So I guess at this point I'll open it up to any questions, but pretty straightforward, just a 8 by 40 front deck elevated on sonotubes, and the rest of the proposed member is a combination of wood and composite material.
Brendan? Or Amy, did you want to have any comments first? I got to get used to that.
Right, yeah, no, I don't have the same thing. We reviewed this one. I mean, it's a, you know, they're a tough location without a doubt, and repairs need to be made, and stuff needs to be done, so, I mean, one is we did make a comment about use of composite material and breakaway, like below the lowest members of, you know, so if it were to get damaged by a storm, we don't have composite floating in the harbor. So wood is the preferred materials, but I'm not so sure we can, under this permit, we would condition that. But anyways, otherwise, I believe it would meet the requirements of a negative finding.
Okay. So Brendan?
Yeah, I really don't have anything. I have no on this.
It's a pretty easy one. There's not much to say.
Yeah.
Andy?
I'm all set.
Jen?
Amy, I have a question. Why do you think we can't cover that material in this permit?
We could. It's
Okay.
just not really, other than putting it in there and hoping that they do that. I mean, I can put on my list to be checking for wood, but you know, without ours, there's not really the follow through accountability that, you know, you get with an order.
Yeah.
But anyways, for all those who are listening, that should be noted that would be preferred. I mean, we could put it in one of our policies that we're gonna be talking about, but, and we could put it in the permit.
Okay, yeah, that'd be great. I was actually just driving down this area this weekend and it felt like everybody had a front porch. So clearly these people have felt left out, but it's a great area to have one. So I'm excited for them.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, Jen. Penny?
I think she stepped off.
Oh, she might have, Doug?
No comment. Really just making sure it's clarified that the elevated decks you show on there, those are existing, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, so the only thing being proposed is the porch. So
That's correct. Yep.
so I'm good.
Richard?
I'm good.
And we didn't have anybody in the audience, right?
Apparently we did.
That was me playing a xylophone solo. I didn't realize I was still on.
I don't see anybody waving their hand, so.
Good. All right, take a motion
Make a motion to close.
for negative
-3. Sorry.
second.
I will second that. Oh, Jen got me.
So Richard, Jen, so all in favor, Doug?
Yes.
Did we lose Penny permanently?
Yeah, to CPC.
Okay.
He hasn't been eliminated, though.
Andy?
Yes.
Brendan?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And Frank, yes. Good. Okay,
Thank you, guys. Have a great night.
thanks, Jed.
Thanks.
Take care.
Thank you.
207 Tilden Road on October 4th, 2021, during the 5:30 meeting of Town Hall, Situate Conservation Commission will act on the request of Michael Ortho for a determination of applicability of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Situate Wetlands bylaws for activities related to replacing a shed in a similar location at property known as 207 Tilden Road, Scituate. But as another interested parties are invited to attend. The information to access this meeting is available on the agenda posted on the town website. So who do we have for this?
It doesn't look like we have anybody, actually. But I'm willing to give it a go. This is a homeowner, right across from Toll Brothers on Tilden, like right across from the wetland restoration is where the house is. And he wants to rebuild a shed. It's, I mean, pretty straightforward. I think he could, accomplish the job as a negative finding.
Oh, I see. I remember this now.
We have a plan. It's entitled Existing Conditions Plan, a more survey plan, which I mean, I'm not sure why this plan was done, actually. So I mean, I think we would note that we're not accepting the wetland boundaries. But this is one of those houses that was built a very long time ago. And there's clearing, clear right up to the, practically to the limit of the bordering vegetated wetland as determined by John in 2021. But so, I mean, I don't know if there was something else on the horizon on this, like an addition, but for now it's just a shed. And it is a wet area. It's definitely a wet area. So I think probably a -2, unless you want to somehow have them adjust the location of the shed, but otherwise, I mean, I think it's probably okay as a 2/3 finding, and but not accepting these wetland lines.
Frank?
Okay.
Frank,
Yes,
is it clear that the current shed is being removed? And do we have a size on the new shed that's proposed?
I don't see either. So I think that's something we could request.
But otherwise, I can't see a real issue unless it's too big or,
Yeah, just right. So we could word it, Richard, so that it's, of comparable size, because he worded it, replace shed that is old and rotting with a new shed in similar location. Be placed slightly to the right of the current location. I marked in a highlighter the approximate location of the shed, so.
Okay, so that's what my question, that's the yellow highlighted. That's where the shed's gonna go. So it looks like there's a fence there already.
Yep.
Is it a fence or a tree line?
Like the orientation of the shed at an angle, you know what I mean? So I think it's reasonable that he can just move it over. It's lawn. It's not like.
Yeah.
It's buffered to BVW, but it is existing lawn, and they are put on blocks.
Yep.
Up above the ground.
I
It does
just think
say
we need the
fence, Doug.
specifics.
Yeah. Can we put into that, Amy, basically that the shed will be the same size and it looks like it's kind of got it up against the
Yes, the fence.
fence, so
Yeah.
I think that'd be fine. Doug, did you already comment?
Yeah, that was just
Yeah.
clarifying that the highlighted mark. So yeah.
Okay. Penny's, yeah, Jen,
I'm good for now.
Andy,
Yeah, I'm good.
Brendan,
I'm good.
we don't have anybody in the audience. Okay, I'm fine. So I could get a motion for a negative finding from somebody.
I will make a motion for is it a -3?
There you go. There a second?
I'll second that.
Brendan. So all in favor, Richard,
Yes.
Jen,
Yes.
Andy,
Yes.
and Frank, yes. Great, thank you. All right. What is the condition? Go ahead. What do you want to do next, Amy?
Oh, just keep plotting along. OOCs. So you're gonna just make one motion to approve all as written, if you're good with them.
Okay, somebody want to make that motion? These are ordered conditions for 21 Central Ave, 138 Howlett Street, and 50 Surfside Road.
I'll make the motion to accept the orders of conditions. 21 Central, 138 R Hollitt, and 50 Surfside Road is written.
Do I have a second?
Second.
It's Jen. All in favor? Doug,
Yes.
Andy,
Yes.
Brendan,
Yes.
Frank, yes. Great, thank you. Certificates of compliance
Enforcement.
or enforcement.
Do
Do
we
you
need
wanna-
motion? Do we need motions for these?
I don't think so. Amy, you just want to explain any of them or any issues?
Yes, hold on. So we do need to talk about 36R and 36 Bailey Causeway, which hopefully y'all remember that one because we spent.
Mm.
Spent enough time on it.
So anyways, they're ready to sell them, and in fact, one sold and now occupied, but the work is not done.
How
So
does that work?
in particular, what's not done is the plantings, the split rail fence, like about 175 feet of it, 3 growing seasons, conservation markers, missing a shallow swale, it appears, and also they would like to have permission as a minor modification to skip special condition number 49, which required them to make some breaks in the berm that was holding, the man-made berm that was holding back the water. You recall that detail? These are the 2 new houses up on piles right adjacent to the Bailey's Causeway, you know, whatever, to the there. You guys know the properties, right? There's 2 little houses on 2 lots.
Yeah.
Squished in there. But anyways, the plan was we're going to abandon everything on the left side and do about 20, almost 2,300 square feet of plantings. And of course, that hasn't been done. And then also alongside, like the right side of the plantings, the driveway that had been there, that was all to be abandoned. And then a split rail fence was going to go up in an L, you know, along that whole area. And then also, I mean, there's the thing about the fact that there's a garage bay underneath 36 now, but I guess that, you know, we didn't condition the architecturals for the project, and they are on driven wooden piles. I guess as long as they're breakaway, according to the building commissioner, that would meet FEMA requirements for coastal resource areas, for the land subject to coastal storm flowage that they're in. But basically, I mean, I think that, you know, if we are going to, they've requested a partial, and if we are going to do that, we should definitely determine a number based on what I just told you for some kind of a holdback. Because, I mean, let's face it, sometimes they don't always come together with everything done the way you want it. And you did spend a significant amount of time on this, which is why I know that you remember this project. Right, Doug?
I do.
Yeah.
I do.
So what do you think?
It feels like I'm confused about what was done as opposed to what done.
Well, what was
Isn't
done
it-
is they tore down the houses that were there,
Right.
2 little cottages, and then they drove wooden piles in, and they erected the new houses that are there. They put in 2 different septic systems with two different, tanks going both to separate leaching fields. They put an easement on the leaching field that's on the front property to give it access to the one that they've now sold off in the rear property. They've got, they're showing that maybe they did have put in a few shrubs along the edge there, but there's no fence. The grade has not changed significantly. So for the most part, like that part of the project appears to be done. It's
Right. I guess my point is it doesn't feel like they've done anything environmental
Yep, you're right.
in a positive sense. Also, I'm
Well, that's not really true because they have compliant Title V systems now.
okay. That's
They had failed cesspools,
sure.
a bonus.
Is that fence that's pictured in photo B permitted?
No, that's not where the fence was supposed to go. So there's there needs to be adjustments in the fence out there.
I'm not really comfortable giving somebody a partial with this many issues.
Outstanding items, yeah. Well, if you're gonna have to have a pretty high number on it if you do. And we're still technically in growing season, but I think that there was a supply chain issue, part of what they needed to plant. But I don't see a reason why they couldn't get the fence in. And you probably need to talk about their request for walking away from the berm condition.
Recording in progress.
I knew that.
It was interesting. It seems to me like they did everything they needed to do to have the house and nothing of the extra that we spent much time on to make this try to work. I agree with Jen. I'm not in favor of this at all.
Well, we can, send them a letter and just say, hey, listen, preference is for you to get further down the line with some of the uncompleted items. And even then, I think you should be thinking about what you would want to see for a number for a holdback. I don't know. It feels a lot like other requests for partial where it's like the rush is on because they're selling the house or owners are changing, but they're not always required for property deals. In fact, I haven't had one attorney called me for these sales, but I think now they're rather okay because they got temporary occupancy in the rear house. But the goal is to sell both properties, my understanding, which would pass with the owners. So like the owners now, when they sell it, the orders go with the next people. They inherit the deal.
Good luck to
So-
them.
Right, and that's why we want to get it now before.
So Amy, we have this issue over on off of Tilden Road. With a house that was built, there was supposed to be a bunch of things that were done and nothing got finished and we didn't get any money to do that. So I think that the number for these plantings and stuff needs to be pretty significant, but a lot of these people are caught kind of blind. I wonder if along with getting a letter or getting money to build this, that we need a letter from the buyer that they're aware that these conditions aren't complete and that they could be responsible for those.
Or
That's
what?
a great idea.
I think a lot of people are just told, well, that's not a big deal, that's being taken care of. But I think that it's important, otherwise we're going to hear from somebody down the road that they didn't understand what they were responsible for. And then we're in the middle of trying to work that out. And I think, what I've heard from a couple of the members so far is that really not seeing nearly enough of this completed. Also concerns me that they want to change some of the orders. We haven't heard it. Is that a formal request to not alter the berm?
It is,
Yeah.
it's woven into the CFC request.
I mean, we had a lot of discussion about how that was going to work, and we had Bob Gray as a consultant, and we sort of worked our way through all those things. And that's how we came to determine that we could condition these projects. So, I mean, is that something we want to go back to Bob Gray on and say, this is what the applicant's asking for? Why would we or would we not want to do that? And they're going to have to post some money to get those reviews.
Yeah, well,
This was a pretty significant, sensitive
It wa-
site with a lot of issues, was a lot of discussion, a lot of debate. We came up with a fair amount of mitigation so that we could condition this. And now we're not seeing that those things are being met.
all true. So we'll just reach out and let them know what's going on. They need to get it more consistent with the approved site plan and come back to us, and that it's a no on the request to eliminate the berm. I mean, all you were asking for were like a breaking through to let the water, so the water could pass through.
Right.
Which is why, and that's in their cover, they're saying that the abutters are saying, don't do that, is the point that Greg Morse put in his letter.
Except the butters had plenty of time to speak up when we were doing all of this for 3 months.
3 months.
Oh, all right, I'm minimizing it. This is the sort of thing, and I don't get rattled too much, but this is the sort of stuff that does tick me off.
So, Amy, I mean, like, I'm looking at the plan it's an as-built plan, it says. But when I'm looking at that, isn't it true that the buffer mitigation and shrub plantings are still proposed? Or have those been planted?
Some of them have been planted.
Some of them have.
Yeah, the
'Cause-
little dots that they have there, the little circles, those are some plants that were installed.
Okay, all right, that helps. So what's not clear then, you'd have to go back to the original proposed plan and overlay the two to show what still has to be done
Which I did this afternoon.
beyond the narrative.
Why I-
Okay, so is the
And that's
narrative,
where I came up with my list. Yeah.
all right, so is the narrative accurate? Then it says that what's left is the complete, includes the planting of the proposed trees, that what needs to be done, finishing the split rail fence, observing the growing seasons, and installing the conservation markers.
Right. So
So-
I think that there's more to it than that.
Okay, so what I was wondering is how
Yeah.
many more trees are going to be planted, and are they still planning on doing that this season, or?
No, they're not planning on doing the trees until next season unless we let them substitute a species. But otherwise, the preference is, that I guess that type of tree is not
Oh, yeah, I ran into that.
fall or something like that. So they're-
Yeah,
Put those
this is
in
a
in the
tough,
spring.
tough year to get what you wanted. Okay, I
Yeah.
get it, all right. And the split
But I
rail
mean, I
fence.
guess my concern is that, the mitigation along the left side really was, to enhance that whole left side buffer and make it, not make it restore to the wild, right? Actually
Right.
replicate and mitigate. And then also in the rear of the 36R, it shows lawn, and that's not what the plan shows. It's all supposed to be in the rear of that house. It's all planted out.
Yep, there you go.
Okay.
I mean, I think we should have what this this shows.
Sure.
And then there's that, additional split rail fence on the inward boundary of that planting area. So that would restrict, say, cars or whatever. And that's where the posts come in, do not touch area, that type of thing.
Mhm.
Okay, so why don't we leave it at that? That I will reach out to them and let them know what you guys are thinking and see if we can get a little more a few more items done. And there was a swale on the right side of 36R, which is not on the as-built. So I'll call them out on those items.
Okay.
Sound good, Frank?
It does.
That's
Agree.
good,
Okay,
Amy.
and then, moving on, I'm going to issue for 182 Central, 9 Pond View, and 125 River Street. 2 of those were raised rebuilds. The other one was a deck.
The 2 down here are done. They're good.
Yeah. And now we can go on to discuss policy regarding continuances.
I'm gonna let you guys read on that while I step out for 2 seconds. And I'll take my paper with me. I'll be right back. Why
So I
don't you
guess-
explain to the commission what you wanna?
Well, has everybody had a chance to take a look at the, just the message that we're trying to get out? I mean, I think the
That was
document
was-
sent
was-
was from another town.
from
you know?
Hingham.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it may not be spot on for us, but it's in the direction I think we should go to just have clear expectations for the applicants, because it seems like there's a lot of instances where you get on an agenda and then it's like 9 continuances later, we, close it out. And that's seems to be robbing spots for other projects, which we're continue to be quite busy on applications.
I think we do need to put a limit on them. I think Hingham said 3. I don't know if that's the magic number. And I also wonder if that's 3 that the applicant requests or 3 total, because sometimes we force a continuance because of stuff we need. So, but I think there has to be a limit, definitely.
Yeah, I had a similar thought, Richard, in the sense that sometimes it's like we force it, or they like the delays without explanation are the ones that are more frustrating than not. But I'm not sure how you really count that.
Okay.
Just, are we forcing it, or is the lack of information and an incomplete plan forcing it? Who's actually forcing it? I love the idea of having,
Yeah.
it has to happen. We need a limit.
I-
But on this forcing issue, is
You're
it really
correct.
us?
Yeah, I believe I would say 90% of the time I would stand with you on that.
Meaning,
Meaning that better preparation would not have led to a
a
continuance.
continuance, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, looking at, they're saying that you're not gonna continue it more than 3 times without the submittal of updated project information. So that would be in the case of, hey, we need this extra information, and they don't get back 3 times. What happens then, AB, if that's it? Do you close the
No,
hearing?
then we would just, I guess you can kind of keep them on the books, but what would happen is the next time they want to actually get on, well, they need to provide the information, but then we would also re-notify abutters.
You have to re-notify abutters.
I
Okay,
like that.
so And I do think that we try pretty hard. I do think there's an onus on us to be clear on what we're looking for when it comes to additional information as well. So we're not ending a meeting with some sort of a vague, impression, but not direct. I think we have to give the applicant some clear direction when we're asking for information, and not just sort of a general overall feeling of the project. Because sometimes it feels that way, like it's a complicated, it's a big project, and you just feel like you need a little more time to absorb the whole thing. And I don't think that there's anything wrong for if that's what we need to do. Sometimes if it's a really large project, it's really hard to get your head wrapped around everything in one meeting. I just think we have to be clear so we don't kick the can down the road, and then they're not sure what they're supposed to do when they leave between the next one. So we're not the ones forcing the continuance.
I feel like a lot of the ones that like pop right into my head are ones where they might not get approval anyways, and so they're kind of stuck.
Yeah.
They don't
Yeah.
like what they're hearing from you, maybe would be another one. They don't like the way that direction that you guys are going with it, or they don't like the feedback. And so now, they just not sure what to do. But I mean, it's really putting off the inevitable, but meanwhile, you're churning up space on our agendas. So, and people are, you see something on an agenda 10 times. I don't know, kind of makes you wonder.
Yeah, I get that. If you're an applicant, you got something in front of it and the board is really being very negative about it, you can kind of get the idea without taking a straw vote. They're not going to vote for this. The applicant might say, well, I'd like to continue and see if we can come up with a better plan. I think that's acceptable. And then they come back, hopefully they have a better plan, or so the clarity on our part, I think sometimes we can be hesitant to be clear enough. I don't think that we do that a lot. I don't think I think we are try to get to the point quickly. But the other thing too is if we had some policies around things like plantings, like there was an application tonight with some plantings, and I don't know, do we have like an approved list? So, hey, here, if you're going to come in with a project, we are really expecting to see some mitigation, and we're leaning towards not just a whole bunch more lawn, but maybe some productive plantings, and here's the list. So it helps the applicant to come in the first time with something more than an arrow that says proposed mitigation, and they've got an idea of what they're going to plant and quantities or something. And then of course, availability factors into that, but something like that, I think if we had available for them, just as a policy to say like, yeah, here's your project. And when they file the notice of intent, say, or whatever, you might just say like, if we could just get it out there somehow that this is what we're expecting to see when it comes to mitigation, I think that might help them get it on the plan the first time.
Good idea. Good thinking.
Yeah, I like it overall. I mean, it's not an insurmountable penalty. So if you have to re-notify, I'm sure some people may find that is something they have to do. But I think if we get to that third one and say, hey, this is our third one, are you sure you want it for next week? I can see that really forcing people to say maybe a month, or being a little more realistic with where they push it out.
I do think it's right though to have it clearly understood what changes they're going to be making in order to bring it back, or what requirements we have for them to bring it back before we reschedule them.
All great points. I don't think we really, like, I want you to vote on what you are looking at. I think I want to spend some time and maybe work on something, refine it, and get you something that you can actually vote on.
I think that would be
Want
great.
Some feedback.
Is that our method, Amy? We would have a policy and we would vote to adopt
Yeah, we
adopt
could
a policy.
vote in a meeting for a policy, but if you want to make changes to your regulations, we'd need to do a public hearing and a meeting. Or just, we'd need to, advertise it and actually have it, just kind of like what we did with the FEMA changes. And I mean, we could, and I think this part is of our internal work groups and trying to make things easier and better for people and more incentives to get the job done first time around. I see, and I like how Hingham has built in, or Hingham and Norwell have built in additional fees, which might give you, more incentive to flow through with everything. Like, so we do have them initial and sign off on the responsibility, and they're aware that there's requirements for certificates of compliance and as-built. But God, that message wasn't clear back before, because that's like a quarter of what we do is track down. Jen's constantly getting calls from law offices for sales where there's like outstanding orders, and then then it's the call on whether or not project that is so old was done the way it's supposed to be, so on. So there's fees, extra fees for, like, as the longer you're in the system, you pay fees, which actually, interestingly, now that I say it out loud, that's how Bureau of Waste Site Cleanup incentivizes people when you have a contaminated property. Once you get in the system, it's like, it's $1,200 a year administrative, and then which you're tagged with by the state. And if you don't meet milestone 1 within a certain time frame, then they double the fees, that type of thing. So we could go in that direction to try to encourage people.
I would support that.
But that's going to be more like another regulation change, which is totally
Well, I think some
doable, and
specific guidance on this sort of stuff, and
yeah.
anything we could do to get it implemented will eventually filter down to the point where we're more efficient in the way that these things can be handled, which should make it better for the whole operation, especially Amy and Jen.
So do you want to, you got a good feedback from the commissioners.
Yeah, so I have good
Supporter.
feedback. I think we should go with a policy and then start working on some regulation updates. And I don't know if you guys want to form like a mini subcommittee to work with that, or we'll talk about that at a later date. And just try to pinpoint just what we should be, doing. But I mean, based on what we've just.
Madam Vice Chair, do you want to do anything else while we wait for Frank to come back?
I'm here. But I'd be, I don't even know if we need to really take a vote, but folks that have a good feel for this, maybe just let you know what they'd like to have, or we can get together on it. I'm okay with keeping it that informal as long as we get to where we want to be.
Hey, sounds good.
Here.
This is
Signing of the documents, meeting dates, and trails are left.
I'm not hearing you.
Oh,
I can hear her.
I can hear her.
oh, okay.
Amy, this is before you go on to that, just as an aside, because I don't know if you know anything about this, but it is related, but my understanding is Norwell has actually implemented a tree bylaw. Are you familiar with that at all? So I've been meaning to
Yes.
go travel down there and talk about it and read through that. I haven't looked at it yet, but I didn't know if you knew anything about that yet.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of towns, I mean, it's just like kind of, like standard practice for
What's going on here?
commissions to require replacement of trees when they're removed, generally 2 to 1 based on diameter. I mean, because like for instance, we are getting requests from one of our current projects out on the Gulf that they want to, remove these Norway maples. Yes, they're invasive, but I mean, a big, huge Norway maple, I mean, it provides other, wildlife habitat, as an existing tree. So even though it's invasive, it doesn't mean like just cut it down in the 100. And so we definitely don't have a policy in writing on trees, but it's something that we try to implement on tree projects, which actually some tree projects get approved with minor activity permits, and others that are more complicated, you've seen come in as RDAs or part of the notices of intent. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I was thinking it was, it's interesting. It's tricky and subjective, like just exactly like you described. Replacing in kind might not be something that you want, because you might be replacing an invasive with another invasive, and now there's 2 of them instead of only 1. And things like that. And they're going to be saplings. They're not going to be of 30-inch mature tree that you cut down. So it's tricky. So I just wanted to get that out, that's going on. And I fully intend to dive into that and explore it a little bit more. But
yeah, well, when I was out with Art last week, we're talking about it, and brought up the Norway maple dilemma, nice 20-inch tree. It's like, yeah, sure, you want to cut it down, but do you really want to put in like, 60 diameter, like 60 diameters of trees? And you can't just put in saplings. Like sometimes you're going to be looking for those bigger diameter trees too. And I know like we came up against opposition on one that I don't know, I guess I shouldn't call names out, but one on Border Street that was another lengthy permitting project. And it came down to like some trees. And then there was a lot of bitching about the caliper that I put in there. Can't buy a tree that big, which is not true. But I mean, it gets more difficult to transplant a larger diameter root ball for sure.
oh, absolutely, yeah, very expensive. Yeah.
But there's also a little bit of a science to replacing trees, not only for erosion control or whatever, but also for the environment, for absorbing carbon dioxide.
Mhm.
There's a lot to be said about like removing some of these really larger trees that are sort of not contributing as well as maybe a group of trees that could actually be more beneficial. And I think that's the same way if we start to look eventually at doing some work in some of our property. If we develop a forestry program or something, you can harvest larger trees, and then you promote growth of other trees that might actually be more beneficial than
Right.
leaving all the large trees there. So you need to involve some folks that
Yeah, there is a
that have that knowledge.
science. Yeah, I think it's called forestry.
but I
like that.
But on a lot of these sites, just saying to people, oh no, we don't want you to cut that tree down because it's a big old tree, when in fact, the tree might be pretty mature and going to fall anyways.
Right.
I mean, we're seeing a lot of our forests already aging out. So we should
There are
stay a little
suggestions too
open-minded.
about planting species that are anticipating what it will look like 50 years from now and not today. because
That
some
would be
some trees
cool.
we might plant and not make it in 20 years
Yep.
when the climate
Well,
alters.
But anybody that wants to sit on a Zoom meeting with the town of Norwell, Andy and I had that experience, so.
Good.
Okay.
So,
How do
Yeah,
we-
we've got a site coming up where we're gonna be sharing jurisdiction with Norwell, so it'll be interesting to see, for you to see, you know, the way they roll versus how we roll. It's a little
Right. Interesting. Okay. What else have we got?
So do you want to make a motion to accept the proposed meeting dates and subject to possible small revisions, but I think it's fair, as well as we can, keeping consistent with first and third Monday nights or Monday early evening meeting dates. You know, we're not switching the day of the week, it's Monday still, except for an occasional Wednesday in the, because the state has so many dang holidays that some months get a little bit more challenging than others, you know, especially with town meeting and stuff like that. But I thought that the meeting dates looked pretty reasonable, and Jen put them together. So thank you, Jen. Do you want to vote on that motion?
I'll take a motion.
I make a motion, we accept the 20 to 22 dates as proposed.
I have a second.
Second, Andy.
All in favor? Richard?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
Penny's not here. Brendan?
Yes.
And Frank, yes. Did anybody clear those with Penny to make sure they didn't interfere with any of her vacations? I don't know. It hasn't happened lately because of COVID, but all of a sudden there'd be changes in meeting dates, and come to find out it had something to do with Penny's travel plans.
No, we didn't get any feedback that was, yeah, that we can't handle. So
Okay.
I'm sorry about the November 1st meeting and moving it to a Wednesday, but I'm going out of town, so that's why we moved that, so.
Okay. Just, it's not really in here, but Andy put together a great sort of agreement for Appleton Field, where I think it's really good one. And maybe while he's on and Amy's on, so this would be like moving Appleton Field forward. Amy, do you think I guess, do we have to run that by town council? Can we just go right to this town administrator or selectman?
Whoop, what happened? She left.
Lost her for a minute. And Andy, while you're on, I tried to call around as well to get you some numbers for wells, and I had no luck. It's been. Do you still need to put a budget number together for that?
Not this year. We're moving forward with alternate plans, but eventually.
All right. I'll see if I can get some more, but I struck out in a couple of places.
Yeah, keep trying. I mean, I think we need like a 3-year lead time on it seems. So
Holy mackerel.
I don't know.
Those well guys. But this looks great. I mean, I think we have an agreement that we could put forward and get moving. Maybe you want to explain a little bit where we want to take that.
Yeah, so this would be to well, to try to keep that farm field in good shape, and before it gets too much more overgrown and the invasives really take hold, using the non-community garden section for a local organic grower, with preference for distribution in town. And I was able to, well, thanks again to Hingham, get a bit of a model on that with some of the agricultural work they do. it would essentially trade maintenance services from the farmer for use of the land. So they would maintain trails in that area, help with the community garden, provide support there, do maintenance of, clearing stone walls, that sort of thing, in exchange for use. I mean, they can also pay, but preferably it would be
Trade
an exchange
barter.
of services.
Good
Sounds like a
deal.
great idea.
I like it.
Yeah.
It would be nice to see that property used like that, that's for sure.
They would. So I would love to move it forward.
Do we should get this out to everybody, I guess, and prove it. Maybe Amy's back in. Do we need to just get some approval from the selectmen or?
Yeah, I think that you should. We should have town council have a quick look at it, and then if it's good with her, distribute it to the select board, and you guys can just briefly explain it, get their buy-in too. Then, I mean, but I don't, hopefully that's not gonna be a long time to get her to review it. Maybe, I mean, I can talk to Jim and see what he thinks. Because, I mean, Shirley Hingham's town council reviewed it, right? So.
Yeah. Well, if we need to get with the town council for something else, we got a couple of these other projects, maybe we could just sort of roll that in so that it gets done.
Bulk pricing. I love a deal.
Okay. What else do we have? And I went to Scituate Scouts meeting the other night. I was sort of there before their meeting and met with several Eagle candidates, and they're willing to take up the work on signs, the parking posts, moving some signs around, finishing up some of the other little projects, renewing a trail from the town forest over to Clap Road. There's a number of them that are looking for either Eagle or life badges, but the ones to help us get the rest of the signs in place are just trying to work out that stuff with the folks and their council that need to approve their project, and hopefully all those things will get done like in the next couple of months. Month and a half. Yeah, it'd be nice to get that part wrapped up. But there's a lot of post holes to dig, so better them than us.
Is there a time, like, we don't want to have the ground freeze?
Free or frozen. No, that they know that. We gotta.
Okay. I'm like,
Hopefully.
love to see those things up. Don't want to dig frozen ground.
Hopefully we'll get the majority of it. If for some reason there's a snag on that, there might be a few posts that don't go in for some no parking or something. But the other one that maybe a couple of us, Andy, you've been down there, the Driftway Park where we want to put that kiosk. We need to come up with a location for that. So I think that's about it. Anybody else? Well, I stayed up to watch the patch, so I'm ready to call it a night.
At least it was a good game to stay up and
It
watch.
was a good game.
Yeah.
We'll give it
Late,
that.
though.
All right.
Hate those late games. Ugh.
Yeah, for
It's too late.
old people, like me, it's late.
Yeah.
Shut
It's
your
late.
mouth, Richard.
Tomorrow night's
That's
gonna
not
be
like
worse.
hour 3 of REM sleep by then.
That's true. That's true. I'll make a motion to adjourn then.
I like that. Do I have a second?
God, I'll second that.
Wow, somebody, that was close.
All in favor, Jen,
Yes.
Andy,
Yes.
Brendan,
Yes.
Frank, yes.
Have a
All
good
right,
night,
have a
everyone.
nice night. Thanks.
Thanks.
All right,
Thank
go
you.
Sox.
Yeah.
Yep.
Sorry.
Yep.
Thank.
Night.